Welcome to Radio Psychotropia, cinema for the criminal in you.
It was there 10 seconds ago. A patch of fog towards northwest. Something must be wrong. Something's wrong with the radar. It must be busted. Something's wrong. I swear to God, I saw it with my own two eyes, man.
Something's wrong my ass. I don't see anything here.
Let me try something, okay? You see what I mean? Look at that. It's there, and you didn't want to believe me.
Fred, I need a light off the bow.
Hello and welcome to Radio Psychotropia. I'm your host, Robert Black. Today we will be talking about Bruno Mattei's 2007 production of Island of the Living Dead. This film marks Mattei's return to the zombie genre since his 1981 zombie opus, Hell of the Living Dead. Shot consecutively with its companion film, Zombies at the Beginning, Island proves to be the more atmospheric of the two, with its remote island setting, dirty, dusty crypts, creepy statues, mud-caked zombies, curses, and a plethora of overacting and out-of-work actors. It feels more like a digital remake of Lucio Fulci's Zombie at times.
Welcome among us.
Hello and welcome. With me is Conrad del Bianco.
Hola.
Of all the zombie films out there, we chose this one. Island of the Living Dead. Why not the Romero Dead trilogy or the Blind Dead films? Well, I wanted something special as our first shambling dead film on the show. Vincent Dawn, aka Bruno Mattei, never disappoints for sheer entertainment value, if not for artistic integrity. There are so many rip-offs in this film, tributes. We even get a hackneyed scene similar to the one where Johnny in Night of the Living Dead torments Barbara. A character here is named Captain Kirk in tribute to the UV Bowl masterpiece, House of the Dead, We get Lucio Fulci's zombies all over the place, and even scenes from Mattei's The Other Hell. We also get an appearance from a Mattei zombie from his seminal opus, Hell of the Living Dead. This is in addition to all the nonsensical scenes in the film. Mr. Del Bianco, can you give us a synopsis of the plot, please?
Following a brief sequence set in 1688 involving conquistadors and a plague which causes the dead to rise and chomp on the conquering colonists, we have mass destruction in which everyone dies and the village burns. In the present day, a group of failed and broke treasure hunters, led by Captain Kirk, run aground in the fog just off the coast of an unknown and uncharted island, perhaps Gilligan's Island. In need of water, all but the engineer go on land while the boat is being repaired. In no time flat, the main toy boat explodes. The safety raft is gone, and zombies start attacking. Seeking safety, our group retreat to some skeletal structures where they find a treasure, but, of course, they wander off by themselves or in groups despite the known dangers. As befitting a film from Mattei, their numbers quickly decrease. Will any of them survive? And do we even care if they do? Yeah, so Rob, first thing I want to talk about is the wonderful acting in this film. Okay? Obviously, all Academy Award performances. I don't know, what was that one?
Especially Yadalia Suarez.
I think it's Yolidia, but I can't
Well, we have
pronounce
the
it
last
either.
name correct, Suarez. Every enunciation was followed by her head bobbing back and forth.
Yeah, she looked like Zidane from the World Cup there. The guy that headbutted the other soccer player. That's what she's doing. Every time she makes a point, on every syllable, she just, bobs the head.
Right.
Like she's sending a telegraph or something.
Even when she's handling a shotgun, she bobs her head.
Listen, her facial expressions remind me of the ones on the chimpanzee chicks in Planet of the Apes. Okay? She's got the same brow line, and basically the rest of her face is not doing anything. She's just, basically looking like she's made up or something. She's just terrible. The other chick is no better.
Protagonist,
there's a scene
not
in there
chick.
where you can clearly see there's someone coming towards her. And from my perspective, I could clearly make out it was a zombie. Okay?
Well, I guess when someone's shambling toward you, they're in rags and they appear to be decomposing. I would say you could probably tell that's a zombie from a fair distance.
Yeah, sure. And
Somehow, her character Sharon in the film cannot tell it's a zombie until he's right up on top of her.
which poses a great question. How close does one let a zombie get to them before they realize
They're a zombie.
Yeah. In her case, it's a foot?
Yeah, about a foot.
You can
And
tell
even
right away.
even
that-
her partner took his time to actually realize the guy's one of shambling dead. He just stood there with his porn star mustache and just sort of with his mouth agape. And okay, granted, she didn't react either, but neither of them reacted. So what were they looking at? What were they told to look at by Mattei? Or at this point, this is the second to last film directed by Mattei. I'd like to know if he was semi-catatonic while he directed this, because you have inconsistencies all over the place. The direction, you would assume that he told the actors to perform a scene in one manner, and for some reason it's almost like the actors didn't listen to the direction or provided their own direction, and they figured that Mattei wouldn't notice for some reason.
The funny thing is, in that scene, they do have some fog. So the idea was that perhaps you couldn't see the figure clearly. And this would have been a lot more effective had they used more fog.
Right.
But because they didn't, you can clearly make out, someone shuffling and walking in a zombie-like fashion. Clearly not walking like a healthy human being.
Well, this being a Mattei film, if you're familiar with his previous films, you know he's goddamn ridiculous. All his films are very, very much the same. Stupid characters doing stupid shit constantly. And you don't really know why they're doing that, but they're doing it constantly. They arrive on the island. They immediately encounter zombies, the Walking Dead. Now, most sane people would try and get the fuck out of there. They would chop down a tree and ride that to wherever the tree took them on the ocean.
Or climb up a tree.
Yeah, exactly.
Zombies aren't in the habit of looking up, I've noticed.
Yeah, but apparently they can get on lifeboats and, sail out to the ship and attack the remaining crew member on the ship.
Was this dubbed from Italian, by the way? Do you know?
You know what? I think, taking into account that it was shot in the Philippines, it was probably different actors spoke their own language, and they just sort of redubbed everyone.
Yeah, because there's a great part where the first guy fights off that zombie that walks towards them, right? And he's fighting and he's fighting and he's fighting, and then they finally...
What is that, jiu-jitsu or something?
I don't know.
He was really hammering that zombie.
Hammering
he was getting nowhere, but, he was in there.
And, of course, they remark, too, how the zombies are super strong. And yet in other scenes, they're able to just throw them off like they're feathers.
Yeah.
But after that guy sacrifices himself to save them...
Right, which we never see.
They make mention of that later on. They say, he sacrificed himself to save us.
Yeah.
And then right after he says it, she says, let's not go back. I mean, he sacrificed himself to save us. I mean, why is there so much repetitive dialogue like that of the same exact line in one scene? It's just, you could say the actors are bad, but you can also say the script is pretty lousy too.
Well, apparently 3 people wrote this film.
Yeah.
So somewhere along the way, each writer discounted what the other writer wrote and probably created the film from scratch.
Made his own notes and said, yeah, go ahead.
But the producer probably used everyone's material and just threw it all together, and whatever comes out, is a Mattei film. We never find out where our intrepid treasure hunters are from. We just know that they've been out in the open sea for a while, and they never established exactly where that is. So we're not quite sure. Based on the ethnicity of the crew, we know it's somewhere between Hispania and the Philippines. Now, when we first see the island, we see some black natives. They're performing some sort of voodoo ritual. We never see those people again. We cut away to a bunch of Filipino natives. They're dying. They're collapsing. We don't know exactly what's causing this.
Yeah.
It looks like, it appears to be a plague. However, it still doesn't explain the black natives or exactly what Mattei or his script is trying to tell us. Are they responsible for the plague? Exactly who started the plague? Is it the conquistadors? Is it the priest that's with the conquistadors? They offend the black natives. But we never see those people again. Possibly we may see them in the present day scenes as zombies, but we're never clear on that. Yeah, it's almost like they disappeared from the film right after that.
Yeah, I thought that was to illustrate how the plague started, or at least what kind of curse is on this island. Okay? That's what I thought they were trying to do, but since they never went back to it,
right.
You had to sort of dismiss that whole line of logic. It was interesting, and it kind of reminded me of some of the chanting in Temple of Doom, with the mamam salam, mamam salam,
Well, what I think Mattei was trying to do is recreate the voodoo atmosphere from Fulci's Zombie. The Zombie was set on an island as well, and a zombie plague in that film was caused by a voodoo curse. We never really see the natives in that film perform the voodoo curse, but we hear them. We hear them all over the jungle, everywhere. We hear their ceremony. I guess Mattei wanted to create something similar here. It's another tribute to another old zombie film.
Okay. All right, so let me ask you something. Okay. if they're trying to find a place that's safe, shouldn't they be staying perhaps near the shore or something like that? Shouldn't they have stayed with their boat, or at least built a big, huge bonfire to perhaps signal a passing plane or a ship? Because they want off, right? They don't want back in. They go in and explore these ruins, and it's
well. Here's what's ridiculous, and we're trying to sort of inject logic.
Yes,
even cinema logic in a Mattei film. Again, Mattei is not known for logic. He's known for creating a cinematic experience where once you dwell on it, you realize exactly how ridiculous it really is.
Right, it's a house of cards.
So, they initially encounter these zombies, and then they run to the darkest, dingiest dwelling that they could find,
where they don't even know where the back door is. So they're actually going into what could
trap,
essentially be a trap.
Yeah.
All right. See, had there been an underlying theme of greed to motivate these desperate explorers, then the movie would have made a little bit more sense. I know there is greed because they are treasure hunters. They did lose their treasure in the beginning. All right. They tried to hoist it up, and the thing fell down again. Which
they were hoisting up a wooden treasure chest, and just as they were getting a hold of it, or the bottom falls out and all the gold goes in there, and one of them dives into the water and tries to get as much gold as possible. It doesn't work out. It is revealed, that they're treasure hunters, and they've been at it for a really long time, and they're extremely frustrated. They're just looking for land to replenish their supplies, and they just want to get the hell out of there.
Okay, so they go into the structure, right? They're exploring a little bit. The ship explodes. They hear it, right? Mm-hmm. And of course they realize something's happened to the ship. They go out there, and now their raft is missing.
They had a lifeboat.
Or whatever, some kind of raft or something to get over to the island, and now it's missing. So is that your theory for how the zombies got to the boat?
Well,
that they used.
They could be aquatic zombies. You do realize, since Mattei is famous for ripping shit off, there are aquatic zombies in Fulci Zombie.
Okay.
So they could have swam there, but because a lifeboat is missing, and there is suggestion later on in the film that the zombies are controlled by vampiric zombies, especially that queen which appears toward the end of the film.
Yes.
So we could, in fact, they're not intelligent zombies, obviously, but they could be controlled by an external force there, guiding them to the ship to destroy the ship.
Okay, so when they got on the ship, right, and there's only the mechanic on board. He's fixing up the last little bit and acting and talking to himself, right?
Right, and talking to his engines,
and talking to his engines. Now, they appear, right?
Mm-hmm.
Way too many of them.
Yeah, there's no way. Correct. Yeah. There's no way that many zombies could have
got on that raft.
Okay. Exactly.
And also, they're dry, so they didn't even touch the water.
Which lends credence to my theory that they use a lifeboat to get there.
Yeah, I know.
But there's too many of them to be on the lifeboat, so...
Yeah, and they're all dry, and they show up, and they all know...
But they are Filipino zombies, so they're smaller than Western zombies.
They're a little bit easier to fight off.
Correct.
They're not as superhuman as they say.
Yeah, but you could fit more of them in a lifeboat.
You could
so
fit
there
more
you go.
Of them. That's true. Yeah. I mean, look how many Cubans they can fit into a raft.
But what I would like to ask... Well, I can't ask Mattei anymore because he's left us. But I suppose we could ask maybe the producer, Gianni Paolucci, exactly how the zombies got to the ship. Okay. This is the question of the hour.
Yeah, well, this film asks a lot of questions. So after the boat explodes, they decide that they have to find shelter for the evening, right? So they go back into that structure, right?
Mm-hmm. The temple that the zombies herd them into.
They go into that structure, and Snoopy says it. He says it because, as he points out, somebody has to say it. I think this island is cursed. Now, this is a good hour into the film. Right. After they've already encountered zombies, doors that close by themselves,
ships that explode,
and vampires.
Yeah.
This is the confusing thing about this film. I felt that it didn't know what it was. If it was a zombie film, a vampire film, or a ghost film, or a voodoo curse film,
Right.
or a retarded film.
All of the above.
But I just didn't understand what was going on there. Now you're explaining to me now that that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
And now, on islands, are there usually wolves? Because there's a wolf howling in one of the scenes.
Right.
At
but
night.
yet we don't see any wolves. We don't see any animals.
I was pretty well expecting to see a werewolf somewhere in this film. I mean, might as well.
That
throw
would
them
have
all
been
in.
that would have been really cool.
And
But
Frankenstein,
they probably didn't have the
maybe the
budget.
Mummy.
Yeah. Now, as soon as they get into the monastery, it feels like the film takes a dive in production value.
Totally.
Yeah, it's like they constructed fake concrete walls in a basement somewhere and didn't finish them.
Compared to the beginning of the film, this is why it threw me off. As soon as the opening credits came on and they showed the island and they showed all those scenes in the beginning, I go, wow, this looked like it's going to be something else. It looked like it had some great production value.
Yeah.
Then when it gets into those scenes, it's like you're watching a soap opera. There's a complete shift. And it's not for the better.
It actually reminded me of a 1970s Canadian series. I believe it was called Strange Paradise, and it was very low rent, similar to what we get here. It was a rip-off of Dark Shadows. It was set on an island, and the production value in those scenes reminded me of that series. And it was obviously in this film as well. It's on a sound stage. It looks so cheap in comparison to even the scenes outdoor on the island. It's a huge shift in that sense.
Do you think this film perhaps would have benefited at all with an appearance by Rob Ford? Okay.
Considering how ridiculous, for those of you other than outside of Toronto, Rob Ford is our embattled and occasionally ridiculous mayor.
Crack smoking.
Allegedly crack smoking
Yes,
mayor.
allegedly. Okay.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay.
No.
Until you see that video, it's alleged.
You're saying this as if people don't know about this. I mean, if you've been sitting in a
Okay,
cave
and it was
on
flat,
Mars,
yes, right.
with your eyes shut and your fingers in your ears,
Right.
perhaps you've not heard of Rob Ford.
I don't know. Yeah, it's a pretty ridiculous film. It would probably benefit greatly from an appearance by Rob Ford. You could probably deal with those natives in the beginning. He would probably get into, speaking into that Jamaican patois that he was doing when he did his little dance there. And he would somehow, placate the natives, hopefully.
So, what are they going through the ruins for anyway? They're not looking for flare guns. They're not trying to encounter normal people. They've already given up on
Well,
all
I
that,
would
right?
assume that they're trying to find shelter. But like I said, why would you go to what appears to be the most dangerous place on the island?
It's an
I mean,
island
granted,
paradise. They
there's
don't need
zombies
shelter.
around. Well, yeah, but they could stay, like you said, they could build a bonfire, stay close to the beach. They could climb a tree. I would assume a zombie couldn't climb. But in Mattei's universe, they might be able to
That's
climb.
World War
Who
Z
knows?
zombies. That's when you get those zombies that can climb real fast on top of each other.
Let's not mention World War Z, please.
Again?
Fuck that movie. Fuck 'em.
The Zeeks are getting me. There's
I'll
a
take
lot. There's a
this
lot of
film
stuff.
over
I thought
World
they
War
would build
Z,
a
sorry.
bonfire to try to get some planes or whatever. And like I said, if there was an underlying theme agreed, if they really thought that there was treasure in there, then perhaps that's why they would explore, and perhaps that's why the Captain Kirk, love that name, would tell Snoopy not to send out the distress signal at first, because he wants time to go and find this
Yeah,
treasure.
they never really explained that. Well, hold on a second. We don't need to send a distress signal. We're out of water and we're starving, but we don't need to send that distress signal just this moment.
It was a little bit too convenient. It was a little bit too convenient. This meant that they would not be rescued, and that the three Italians, the three wise men who wrote this script, wouldn't have to explain it either. One of the best shots I thought, best shots in the film was when Snoopy discovers the flamenco guitarist.
That was excellent.
Yeah.
It's almost like Mattei came out of his catatonic state and decided to actually direct the film at that point. It's a beautifully done scene. It's very much at odds with the rest of the direction in the film. The way it's, even the way it's edited. Mattei started as an editor. In that sequence there, he really displays his abilities as a filmmaker, I thought. I mean, this film, overall, has a lot of atmospheric moments that I loved. And it's incredibly entertaining to watch. It's fast-paced. There's a lot of zombie attacks. The zombie attacks never stop in this film. The zombies themselves are also not overdone like in the Walking Dead series, where we have to have individual zombies which display certain characteristics. In this, they're all, gray-skinned, Dawn of the Dead type of zombies. Maybe a few here and there interspread that look like they're out of Fulci's zombie.
Yeah, there's a couple big guys in
yeah,
there.
I would say that they're probably...
They could have been the voodoo fellows that we saw earlier in the film.
Well, correct. They
Slightly
could have been.
different
They could have
stature.
been. Yeah. Well, we don't know that for sure, but we'll give the film the benefit of the doubt. So at this point, our intrepid crew come across a bunch of ancient tomes. We never find out exactly what they're all about, just that they state that there's a plague on the island, and one of the tomes, of course, predictably, is named the Necronomicon. Now, if you know,
Has
if
to
you
be
know what
one
the
in every film.
yeah, exactly, it has to be in every damn film.
Yeah.
There's also another series of books, and we find out essentially that there's supernatural goings on.
Oh yeah, that reminds me. And now the Filipino girl, Yvette Yazan, all of a sudden she knows how to read Latin.
Yes, that was very unusual, wasn't it?
Because Captain Kirk, I mean, he was reading some of it and he seemed to understand it, and which obviously had the good pronunciation too. Being
because
from
it's
Italian
the
background,
books.
but-
Well, hold on a second. The books are supernatural, so perhaps they rewrite themselves as whatever language that the reader can interpret.
Oh, just like the script. Okay, so after the flamenco guitar scene, Snoopy dances with the dead for a while, and then he gets bitten. So now he's infected. With Mechanic, we already know he's turned.
Yeah,
we don't know if he got completely eaten
Right.
at this point yet.
Well, I think he got blown up.
Street Fighter.
Yeah.
I'm going to call him Street Fighter.
Yeah, we didn't see him.
We don't see
We
what
didn't
happens
see
to him.
Yeah.
So we know that he perhaps loses the fight to
the giant zombie. right?
giant zombie because he sacrificed himself to save us, as
Right.
they pointed out constantly. Now, there's lots of things happen after that. There's Captain Kirk has his talk with the conquistador from
1688, right?
yeah, from the ghost of conquistadors past,
Right.
who explains a few things. At the same time, she's reading the tome and explaining that that a ship had come in, a deadly fog had come in at the same time. The ship sunk. They couldn't save them because of the fog, and now that according to these tomes, the island is cursed because of this ship sinking that occurred off the coast.
Okay, here's what
Which
I would
brings
like to add
which,
there.
which adds credence to the whole water zombie
Right.
theory.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aquazom.
But if that's the case, and we can accept that, what did the natives at the beginning have to do with anything?
We tried going down that road. Okay,
Right.
it's just not working. All right. It's just maybe the guy. What year did this came out?
This came out in 2007.
Okay, so
the
these-
copyright is 2006.
All right, so they saw Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and they really liked the mamam salama. They like the chanting and that. They like the voodoo dolls, and they say, let's throw in a little bit of that, a little voodoo magic. We're on the islands. What the hell? Let's have some fun with that. Let's not explain it because that would make sense.
Right.
Where does this take us? They're trying to get off the island now, right?
Yeah.
So they come up with this plan that they're going to build a raft, right? Finally, somebody's come up with a plan.
took them how long to come up with that
That's like a good
plan?
hour into the movie, or
Well,
past that,
yeah, well,
past that point.
yeah.
It's slightly after Snoopy brings up the fact that the island is cursed, like as if we didn't
Right.
know that yet. So they decide they're going to build a raft, and the carpenter there, he decides he's going to put it together, and they'll help him out. That's when Captain Kirk has his talk with the conquistador from the past. Finds out a few things about where that treasure had come from that they had tried to haul onto their boat. Okay? And we're not...
Now that makes sense.
That does.
Could be that they activated the curse
Sure.
when they tried to bring aboard the treasure.
Dead man's chest.
So there you go.
Yeah. So
Looks like it does make sense after
do you think
all.
that was intentional or unintentional? They put 2-3 theories. They put zombies. They put voodoo.
They just threw whatever.
They put, and then you know
threw
what?
a whole bunch of
By the end
stuff
of
at
this
the wall.
film-
Whatever sticks. Hey,
Yeah,
you know that makes sense.
Yeah. Whatever sticks is okay. That's our film now.
Yeah.
Then as they get, so a few of them die. They try to get to the shore. They get to the shore. The carpenter says that the raft isn't finished yet. Okay, so he's got to work on it. And then Yvette Yazan decides she has to go back to do something. Now, this is a funny scene. She goes, I got to go back, right? And then she looks at Captain Kirk. Captain Kirk looks at the carpenter. I'm calling him the carpenter right now because I can't remember that character's name.
Right.
And I know I suck. I know. Don't even get into it with me. But, and then he looks back at Captain Kirk. Captain Kirk looks back at her. And nothing is said. It's a big mum's the word moment. And then she runs off. Okay, to go and whatever. We find out that she's going to destroy the whole place, right? She's going to get all this old gunpowder and everything else and blow up the place, or at least burn it. That's when we start encountering things like monk zombies. Okay?
Where were they throughout the entire film?
Remember there was a scene where she's, one of the characters, I can't remember which one, is standing in front of what's supposed to be a statue of like a monk, a skeleton monk. How long are you going to stand in front of someone who's made to look like a skeleton before you realize you're standing
this
in
is
front?
real, yeah.
Yeah. And of course, those guys start coming to life and start attacking her, and they take Yolidia Suarez captive. Which there's a weird, awkward moment where she actually feels comfortable with one of the priests and hugs him before they all attack her and take her down. Was that the zombie curse?
She accepts her fate and just hugs the priest.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, you're not going to fight for your life? You're just going to say, okay,
Not gonna
this is
run?
my fate, and that's it?
Is there something comforting
I
about
don't
this priest's musk that?
Well,
the pheromones of the dead. Yeah. So then Yvette gets back from burning the temple of doom, and she gets to the beach. She's being chased by all our pals.
Yeah.
All our
All of
pals
them.
have all come back.
Exactly.
They've all come back. It's just like
That's actually one of the best scenes in the entire film. She's just being chased by this horde all down the beach, going after her. And I'm sorry, that was a well orchestrated scene.
Yeah, okay, that one was effective. I'll give you that, Rob. She gets to the beach and decides she's going to take off on this vessel that's supposedly unseaworthy, and by all accounts, I don't know anything about boats, but it doesn't look like it could make it. But she gets onto that, she takes off, and she escapes the island of the living dead. All right, they find her later on. The Filipino Coast Guard comes into play. They come by, they find her. There's a boat right there, but for some reason they have to launch the helicopter.
Right.
Right, because you know what happened at the last second? They said, "Oh, we can use our
why
helicopter." That's way better than the boat.
Exactly.
Let's throw that in. Okay, so they throw that in. They pick her up. They get her aboard, and then they finally check her out, and they realize at that point she's not alive. And of course, everyone leaves, and she gets up and smiles for the cameras, with her red eyes, and all zombie looking.
This segues into the sequel, Zombies: The Beginning.
Okay, so after everything is said and done, all right, Rob?
Mm-hmm.
Was it an entertaining film?
I would say that overall, this is an extremely entertaining film. You put it up against, say, a sci-fi movie of the week or an asylum film, and it blows the living shit out of those pieces of crap. This is an uproariously entertaining film. I give it my recommendation if you're into a lot of cheesy horror. If you're looking for a serious horror film, look elsewhere. But I'll tell you right now, in terms of entertainment value, this film hits all the notes running. We get constant zombie attacks. We get a lot of ridiculous scenes. There's a scene in here where a zombie regenerates. We never see it again, but there's a scene in there. There's a lot of ridiculous tributes. We get it all from Mattei here. This is his second last film, and if he would have stopped here, he would have went out with a bang. Not the best film of his career, obviously, but it's a very entertaining film, and I would highly recommend it for people looking for a good night in front of your monitor. So
with beer and pizza and the works.
And the works.
Okay.
I would, like I said, if you're a serious genre fan and you're the type that prefers art house horror to any film, that has ridiculous looking zombies in it, then I would say steer far away from this or any Mattei film, as far as I'm concerned. So, Mr. Del Bianco, I assume that you don't hold this film in such high regard.
It's hard for me to review a goofball film after spending close to an hour talking about everything that's wrong with it. Usually the films I love the most have great editing, great acting, great soundtracks, great cinematography, and great stories. However, with this film, it clearly misses the mark on all these categories. I don't think I enjoyed it as much as my esteemed colleague. However, perhaps I can suggest a pairing. This could be either a fine aged scotch, a case of your choice of beer, or perhaps a marijuana cigarette or two. If viewed through a hallucinogenic lens, this film is fucking awesome. Hands down. Otherwise, it's a piece of shit.
Fair enough, point taken. But one must know great trash to appreciate great art.
Touché.
I will tell you where you are. You are about to enter hell.
We've been in hell for quite a while. I mean, I don't know what eternity's like, but it's hotter than hell. It is actually hellish. I guess we're in hell's basement.
They told me that
That I... killed myself. That I committed suicide.
yes.
It's true. I did. From that beam.
I don't understand.
No. It's really quite simple. All it took was a rope, a chair, and a deep despair. I made a poem.
Jonathan, don't.
I love you.
Hello, I'm Robert Black, and...
Paris Hilton, Conrad del Bianco. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. We're here to review The Evil Clergyman, starring Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton, based on the story by H.P. Lovecraft. Now, by story, I don't believe that this exactly qualifies as a work of H.P. Lovecraft. This was an idea told to an employee of Weird Tales magazine by Lovecraft himself, and the employee went ahead and wrote the short story, which was subsequently published in 1939, years after Lovecraft's death, under his name. So any claim that this is a work by H.P. Lovecraft is pretty tenuous, which makes the film even more tenuous because the film, by comparison to the story, bears even less resemblance. Now, don't get me wrong, this doesn't speak ill of the film itself. It does have an evil clergyman in it, and it does have certain elements of the Lovecraft story. They do manage to fashion a very good little film in and of itself. This was actually part of a proposed trilogy by Charles Band called Pulse Pounders. This really is not an adaptation of a Lovecraft story. It's an adaptation of an idea from Lovecraft told by a second party who exploited that and wrote for financial gain a story and which was published in a magazine.
Yeah, well, here's my theory on that, Robert. So, H.P. Lovecraft apparently told this guy in a letter this idea, be it from a dream or just an idea that he had. The writer went and wrote it, and then they said that it was H.P. Lovecraft's work.
Correct.
Do you feel that the magazine pushed that emphasis on H.P. Lovecraft being the author to boost sales?
Absolutely.
I mean, why would they, put it out under this other guy's name when we really don't even know?
They didn't put it out on his name. They put it out on Lovecraft's name. This fucking guy obviously thought, well, he hit on this idea. Maybe he can make a payday off this. It was during the Great Depression. Perhaps he can sell this to Weird Tales magazine and make a go of it.
Okay. Well, that's what I kind of felt. Anyway.
That's my issue with the adaptation here. And that includes the cinematic adaptation, which has less relevance to the short story than, in fact, we would assume that the short story would have to Lovecraft's original idea. Fuck off.
Okay, you're doing fine. Hey, listen. So, I understand this is part of a trilogy that was slated to be released in the late 80s, okay? Under
Correct.
the banner of Pulse Pounders.
Correct.
Okay, so what happened there?
Okay, this was actually Charles Band's previous company to Full Moon, which he is still under, I assume. Well, according to Jeffrey Combs, a Italian company, or in fact an Italian film laboratory, took over the negative for Pulse Pounders. That includes not only The Evil Clergyman, but includes the semi-sequel to Dungeon Master, and it includes the semi-sequel to Trancers. Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And what happened after that is the actual negative was lost. Band claims this was found, or a work print was found years later. It had missing sound effects. It was incomplete.
Did it have a score?
No, he added a soundtrack from his brother Richard Band, an 80s style soundtrack, and he released it as a low resolution copy through his Full Moon Direct banner.
So the bank wasn't involved in this?
No. Not the bank that foreclosed on this, no.
Okay.
The original project.
Okay, that's there were some rumblings about that.
Yeah. The film itself is quite good. Like I said, the connection to Howard Phillips Lovecraft is extremely tenuous. It was tenuous at best at first to the short story. It's even more this time. Jeffrey Combs and Barbara Crampton perform very well. They were the hottest couple from the 80s indie horror scene. Now, considering the fact that we're on our second bottle of wine here...
You're on your second bottle of wine.
Fuck you. We're going to expound on this particular adaptation of this Lovecraft story.
Okay, so a brief story synopsis. Barbara Crampton's character, Mrs. Brady, arrives at what we perceive to be the domicile of Jeffrey Combs' character, the clergyman, where she meets the caretaker, who makes some comments about fading beauty and rats in the walls, which is, of course, a reference to H.P. Lovecraft's short story. The caretaker directs her upstairs so that she can go and retrieve her belongings. While she's there, she encounters the apparition of the clergyman, Jonathan, who seduces her, and then later, with the assistance of his demon familiar, played by David Gale, who appears as a human-faced rat, to commit suicide. She does so, at which point Jonathan, the clergyman, and the familiar make a pact where Jonathan claims her body and the familiar claims her soul. Jonathan then leaves in Mrs. Brady's body, and that's where our story ends.
And then after the fact, the familiar finds itself trapped in a trap set by the caretaker for a rat.
And also we should mention that there were some appearances by another character, the bishop, played by David Warner.
Yes.
Which aren't that important to the plot, but he actually interjects and...
Well, he tries to convince the character of Mrs. Brady to perhaps resist Jonathan's character. Now, populating the film on the periphery are three short-lived but interesting characters. The one is the caretaker, which we see at the beginning and ending of the film. The second would be Jonathan's familiar, which is played by David Gale in the form of a rat demon. And the third is a phantasm of a former victim of Jonathan's, another clergyman.
Played by David Warner, the bishop, who also appears as an apparition.
Correct. He warns the character played by Barbara Crampton of the indiscretions performed by Jonathan, how he seduced a previous thrall, and then how another woman found herself in a bathtub filled with blood. That he is the moral compass for Barbara Crampton's character.
It seemed like David Warner's character, the bishop, was delivering his lines whilst masturbating in the moonlight. It just seemed that way. He had his body half turned, and he's looking at her, and then he would
was bringing it down.
Do one of these
well,
faces.
it was a interesting.
A lot of
it was
inner
interesting.
torment.
Yeah, the direction there was quite overstated. Yes.
A lot of inner demons. It's really hard to say what I felt about this film. I mean, it's a half an hour short, so like you were saying before, it was part of a series, a trilogy, or a compilation of shorts that probably would have made a lot more sense in that format.
Correct.
Okay? So when asked to review something that's so short that just sort of happens within half an hour, the only things I can really take away from this are that I enjoyed the acting. I thought the production value was very good. I thought the lighting was great. The story was interesting. Some of the special effects were good. There's not really a lot more that I can expand upon. Yeah, one of my favorite pieces of dialogue was in the form of a short poem when Jonathan is reenacting, in some ways, his suicide.
Right.
To Mrs. Brady character, he says, "A rope, a chair, and a deep despair." That was a fantastic little line. I was actually impressed by that. Yeah. Anything that stood out for you, Rob?
Paoli wrote the Charles Band production Pit and the Pendulum, which was the previous production that he penned prior to this one. I believe the dialogue has the same lyrical quality. It works very well in the confines of a gothic horror romance. I really like that aspect of this film.
It gave me some of the mood that I miss from old TV serials like the Twilight Zone, or
the 80s incarnation is what you're referring to, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's really basically that's all I can say. I mean, it had way better acting than the Island of the Living Dead. That's for sure. Okay, so
everything has better acting.
It was leaps and bounds way better than that film. If you want to look at the production value and the actual professionalism that went into the film.
Right. I would say that it's Charles Band's one of his best films, short film or otherwise. It's unfortunate that Empire Pictures folded when they were producing films of this quality. They were known at the time for producing a lot of shit. A lot of substandard films, lacking production value, lacking in ambition. They did produce the occasional gem, and they did manage to squeeze out a very professional film on occasion, and they did produce a lot of fun films for young teenagers. They knew how to market, and Band still does. It's unfortunate that he no longer has the budgets that he did. However, this is a shining example of what he could produce back then for very little money. And the quality inherent in this production is miles ahead of his current output with Full Moon. I get overly nostalgic when I see the Empire Pictures banner, especially when it comes to my childhood favorites, Dungeon Master, Eliminators, Reanimator, From Beyond, the whole upper tier of the Band Empire Pictures output. You could do worse than to check out the Empire Pictures back catalog on VHS. There's a few titles on DVD and perhaps fewer on Blu-ray. Whatever your format of choice, it'll be an interesting evening's entertainment. Radio Psychotropia, signing out.
We'll see you next podcast.
Music by Aloha Annie and DJ Idiot. Incidentals by Kevin MacLeod, Planet Blue. Theme by Robert Black.